I think people get trapped also by like players with a certain gait. Like Benzema, I mean, this is not a discussion you've had in a long time, but I'm sure it'll resurface at some point. Like just 2 or 3 years ago, there's this thing with Benzema being lazy. Like if
Mm.
players who are just more languid and they just walk and run in a kind of different way, I think people really fall into a trap of just looking at something that looks casual with the way players run and move and just automatically saying that's laziness. And it was just always so odd to me that level that Benzema, especially when we were at a time where he carried the pressing load whenever we pressed because Ronaldo just wouldn't do it, bar like the three big games he decided to. Like it just didn't clock with the eye test. It didn't clock with the data. And I think it's just a similar thing with Isco, right? Like one, he's slow, but he just has this languid way of moving, right? And I think people just kind of look at that and they're like, well, that's laziness because I was on the field. I'd be like, my legs would be moving at top speed, right? They'd be a blur. But I mean, it's just like different biomechanics that I think people are falling for.
I just remember like, and by the way, like on this discussion, I kind of feel that way with Rodrigo too, in a way that like, like right now, like what's the antonym of the lazy, like ex players lazy narrative? It's that Lucas Vasquez is hardworking, right? And I don't dispute that, but I do feel like if you put somebody else in his position on the right wing, like Rodrigo, if you watch Rodrigo play, he's incredibly hardworking without the ball. Like maybe for some reason it doesn't get noticed as much as Lucas Vasquez, but you put Rodrigo on the right wing anytime, and he's tracking defensively. He is covering for the fullback. He's pressing high. He's anytime he has the ball, at the moment he releases it, he's sprinting into position. Like for some reason, Rodrigo doesn't get that moniker. I'm not sure why. I guess whatever the optics, as Om put it, or the narrative, I'm not sure. But yeah, I've never really been a believer that Isco's a lazy player. Um, there was something else in there. Now I don't remember what we were talking about, but
There are a million different things in
I
there,
think that's the
Kiyan.
problem. I think there are so many things that you just don't know what's the thing that you're supposed to go to now. But anything else from the first half that you guys want to hit on?
I mean, do we want to talk a little bit more about Isco and the final third? I mean, I think he
Yeah, I
was the
have something to
player.
add, so go ahead.
He was the player in the first half who set up both of our best opportunities. I mean, that one play inside the box where he dribbles one way, fakes the other, and then feeds Modric, whose shot was blocked. And then the other play where just incredible recognition to know Cruz is coming from behind him and perfectly times a one-touch pass into Cruz's path, who glides into the box, beats a couple men, and his left-footed shot gets blocked. But I thought those were our two best opportunities, and they came from Isco, just his incredible technique, his close control inside the box, and just his awareness of where his teammates are. I think we have to highlight that.
So two things. One, I think what you mentioned about Isco and those chances further highlights my point about how dynamic movement into the box, unpredictable movement into the box, but very purposeful movement led to high quality chances. So the first one is Isco actually receiving in the box, right? We're not just move it wide, pump it into the box. We're actually looking to break down a defense, do the brave and difficult things, and it leads to that Modric block shot where if he angles it, I think to the near post, maybe that's a goal or he forces the keeper into the save. And then the next one is Kroos making an unpredictable run into the box that just can't be tracked from the blind side. And it doesn't result in a great shot, but I'd love to get into those types of locations more often. And then the second thing about Isco's performance is it was really positive for me to see him not be a hindrance in the speed with which we were switching player from side to side, right? That's a criticism I often have of Isco is like he can be too deliberative on the ball. In addition to criticisms I've had of his positioning, today he was actually enhancing our ability to move quicker from side to side, which is really important because, okay, you can have all these runs and everything, but if you're not able to play at that type of tempo, everything just falls apart. Like that's the basis for having a good offensive performance against a deep block and having those runs come off. So I really enjoyed Isco's performance today. And I think those chances that Matt highlighted shows the qualities that he has, but also like the positives from our offensive performance in general.
Well, I thought like the the one where you brought up with the Kroos runs into the box for him, that was in the 35th minute. I thought that encapsulated well how important the two were in this game. So I thought they were also the two standouts for the first half. So Kroos, for reasons because he was incredibly press resistant, the quick diagonal long balls, all the accurate long balls throughout the game, which he just walks into like almost near 100% completion rate from game to game. Reading of the passing lanes was pretty good. But that play in particular was, I enjoyed it because it illustrated both Isco and Kroos what they were so good at. So Isco gets the ball in the box, pounces on it. It's just this great one-touch layoff to Kroos. And Kroos makes Isco's job easier because he's sprinting to the box and creating an overload in the box. And I think like with Isco, the other thing I wanted to say was, I felt very calm and at ease when he had the ball at his feet in this game. Against Atalanta, I liked his performance too, but I didn't think it was as crisp and sharp as this. And I guess that's just natural match rhythm. Like it just kind of will get better and better if he plays more and more, I assume. I don't know. But I enjoyed that he's attempting to break lines. Like there was that one early on where he dribbles past like one or two players, sprints into the box after passing out wide. And I thought about that. Like he makes that movement into the box, right? I think it's good that he does that, but part of it is that it reminded me of also some of the inefficiencies of the Atalanta game from a schematic standpoint, where like if Isco's the one sprinting into the box and he's your target, you just know that the ball going into that, it's going to be very hard to reach him. He's just not that kind of target. But I am continually impressed by him like kind of bringing the ball in traffic in those situations in the box and being able to keep his cool under pressure, bring the ball down, and like we saw in that Modric play, was so good at providing that. And I just think he makes the right movements. He's the best thing about Isco, apart from like his dribbling and stuff, is his positionally he knows where to be as an outlet. And I think that's a part of his game that I think has always been important, and just ball progression in particular. And I think you kind of missed that against Manchester City in the second leg last season too. And I don't, look, we can revisit all of the things in 2018 when that diamond just got ripped to shreds defensively in the league, in the Champions League. And this was another throwback too, because what Zidane did today was he brought on wingers in replacement of Isco and stretched the field a little bit. And that's something he did basically every game in 2017, 2018, where he would replace Isco, bring on wingers. And that's kind of, if you remember going back to the Champions League first leg against PSG, where the reason Real Madrid finally were able to get better out of PSG in that game was because Zidane brought off Isco and brought on Bale and Asensio, and I think Vasquez was the other one. They stretched the field. They won that game. And so there was, I just like, we can go over all that, and maybe that we'll have that conversation again at some point if Isco is going to become a regular again. I don't know, but I do. There are a lot of aspects of Isco's game that I enjoy. That I just, to be quite honest with you, it's not that, I don't know if I would say I didn't believe in him, but I was very skeptical of what version of Isco existed at this point, even though he's not old. But when you don't play for that long, I really just don't know what kind of rhythm you're in, where your head is at. And that's the biggest skepticism I had of Isco. And just because it's been really through two managers now, Solari and Zidane, who seem to have just lost faith in him. But out of necessity, and basically this, I said this the moment we loaned Odegaard and Fede got injured. Like, it's now or never for him. Like, if he's not going to play now, he'll never play. So he absolutely has to capitalize on these cameos that he's getting.
I just like how Kiyan's always on me for going on about and talking about so many things, and then like Kiyan spent half of this talking about 2017-18, and like 5 times he's like, maybe we should discuss that more. So it's not always me. I just want that on the record. Most of the time it's me, but it's not always me.
If I could go as long as you on these monologues, I probably would, but I just I gotta pass the mic around. I gotta pass the mic around. Poor Matt he's too humble and he's too good of a person to interrupt us. So we gotta provide him with some space too.
I used to be like that, and then I remember when you and Gabe like 3 times were like, "Oh, you need to be more assertive and you need to talk more," and that was just you didn't know what you were asking for. You didn't know what you had before. That was a huge mistake, and there's just no going back now.
I think that's where our failure came. That's where our failure is. I think we weren't good enough teachers. We wanted to we wanted to get you out of your shell, but we didn't know once we got out of your shell, it was going to be, we created a monster. All right. That brings us to halftime, correct? Look, even if it doesn't bring us into halftime, we're going to make it bring us to halftime because it's 50 minutes into the podcast. We haven't even talked about goals, nothing. So, or substitutions or Casemiro's swanky role and everything. So let me just start here. And I think with like part of this, a lot of the stuff we talked about in the first half, and as you guys were talking and I was listening, I thought the more and more I thought to myself, wow, all of those issues we mentioned in the first half, that as fun as it was, we had those issues. I think changing Casemiro's role to what it was in the second half was literally the most counterproductive thing I think we could have done in that situation, which makes it even more bizarre. So I'll just maybe also just so everyone's on the same page as we head into this. Zidane talked about this